Sup everybody, another late stream, but it's fine, okay? I promise you we're gonna get through the rest of this stream just no problem, because I actually have quite a lot planned for today, so it's gonna be a little less of me rambling and more back and forth. Right? We got a count review. We got a discussion lined up with Techie, which you guys constantly see him here. So we will see how this goes. Maybe we'll have enough time. Maybe we won't have enough time. Ooh, and we have dinner. Ooh, wow. Ooh, it looks good. Anyways, oh yeah, the scene. Of course, my face is again frozen. Because I keep shitting on Freeze. People say like, "Oh, Walrus, you keep talking bad about Cryo. That's why your camera's always frozen." I don't think so, but you know, isn't it cute that Jabba is in the frame here? Let's appreciate her one last time before we go. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, it's Jabba. Oh, okay. Oh, very good. And it's just me. What's up? So today, oh yeah. Let's talk really quick about the Spiral Abyss. I've gotten a lot of people asking me about Spiral Abyss. Spiral Abyss this time round was pretty easy, very straightforward. 36 started in one try actually. I used Hu Tao Vape for the first half. So I used Hu Tao Vape for the first half, and second half was Alhaitham. Yeah, Alhaitham Hyper Bloom. So Hu Tao, Alhaitham. The wee nut. I know everybody loves saying wee nut. I don't know. It's just something about the name. People keep saying like, Walrus, can you say wee nut on stream? Walrus, say wee nut. Wee nut lamau. It's like, okay, wee nut. Oh, look, I even have my drink tonight. Tonight's drink of choice, not sponsored by the way, is this Japanese condensed milk dairy drink. Dinner, our pork chops with sauteed pepper and caramelized onions on rice. So that's for dinner, pork chops. Okay, let's have a bite. Let's see how this pork chop tastes. Is it juicy? First bite. It's good. Wow. But Luka-chan did a good job. Okay. What I will say about this Abyss is that it's... Okay. I'll be honest. It is a DPS check. It always is, okay? For people playing this game, it always is a DPS check. But what you have to understand is this Abyss, in my honest opinion, is far less of like a utility check than previous Abysses. Okay? Previous Abysses, especially the last one, like remember the first one where one keeps one coming out after the other, it's a DPS check and it has that electric aura. So it is a utility check. You can't really just kind of mow through it. You have to understand the intricacies. I didn't know jack when I came into this one. I just went in. I'll be honest, I barely know what the hell the wee nut does or did because I haven't fought this thing in so long. I just went in and I kind of cleared it. I think the only little oopsie I'd made was my Hu Tao died when I was fighting these two frost time lava trolls. Like one of the that's the only rerun I did. I had to restart this chamber 3 because my Hu Tao died. So technically it's not a one try 36 star, but I just restarted it, reapplied my Zhongli shield for this part, and it was fine. And then the wee nut, I had 2 minutes to kill it, and I think I killed it in 1 minute and 40 seconds or something like that with the Alhaitham team. So this Abyss is definitely a DPS check, especially during the WeNet. Tartaglia International will work great. General International may not work as great. The problem with normal internet, for example, Raiden International, it can work. You time it right, it definitely can work. But in my opinion, when it comes to burst windows, Tartaglia's international team is just, it has a better burst window than Raiden Shogun. In my opinion, C0 Tartaglia versus C0 Raiden, Tartaglia is going to output more damage, if that makes sense, right? The annoying thing for you guys is maybe fishing for that crit on Tartaglia's burst skills. That could be potentially a little bit of a letdown for some people, but overall you should be fine. Even C0 International wouldn't have too much problem clearing it. However, if you are using International, the problem may be like you have to somehow make it past the first two chambers, right? Especially this one. So maybe you have to use different teams for different chambers, but at the end of the day, you can still get 36-star clears. This is a thing that most people who are low spenders or newer players trying to really reach that 36-star milestone doesn't understand very well, is that sometimes you're just gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way, right? Have one team to clear chamber 1 with 3 stars, one team for chamber 2 3 stars, and one team for chamber 3 3 stars. You still get 36 stars. People, hey, at the end of the day, look, you can 36 star the Abyss. Nobody's really gonna ask you exactly how you did it, right? This isn't a president's debate video where Joe Biden is asking Donald Trump what team he used. Nobody cares. You 36 starred the Abyss. Congratulations, you're a gamer, right? At least in the Genshin sense. Overall, this Abyss, very straightforward in my opinion. Have a good variance of elemental damage. I don't think mono teams are going to be as good unless you're running like Geo. Like whenever you have, sorry, I have to go back in because I really don't like, I really don't like mono teams going into these things unless like, oh yeah, unless you have a pyro mono team or you have like I guess Electro can work for the second half here, right? You can do Raiden Hyper Carry, right? Stuff like that if you have Raiden Hyper Carry. But yeah, these ones, I wish there were mono pyro. I guess Dia could work in the first half. I don't know. I think Dia could work if you do mono pyro Dia. Okay, I'll let it go. I'll let it go. We won't talk about Dia. It's a fresh wound. Mono Geo can work as well. Yeah, Mono Geo is probably like the only one. Mono Cryo right now kind of gets laughed at for the first half, especially Chamber 1 first half. It's just, it's not fun. Take the virus says having 2 minutes for WeNet is a good idea. He takes more than 1 minute just on the ground. Yeah, exactly. For that chamber 3, you need to have around 2 minutes. If you cannot 1 minute the first chamber, you're gonna put a lot of stress on yourself for the WeNet. WeNet. Okay, so I've been getting people DMing me about a reaction video. It's one of Vars 2's reaction. Not reaction. It's one of Vars 2's video, and it says reviewing every elemental reaction. So this was sent to me via email and DMs. So let's take a look at it. Okay, sure. Let's take a look at the Vars 2's video. If you guys don't know it, let me show you guys here. Oh. This is Vars 2's video right here. It's at the bottom. You guys can see reviewing every elemental reaction. So if you guys haven't checked it out, you can always feel free to go check out these videos after the reaction. Let's full screen it. Okay, so with all these reaction videos, I've never watched it. Okay, I've never watched I never watched a video. I'm not going in with like notes prepped on the side, be like, okay, let's talk about point. No, I have no idea what the hell he's gonna say. I also have my own personal biases. Remember, these reaction videos are just to see what I think. They're not supposed to be some sort of, like, I'm not some Genshin reaction professor grading Vars. I'm sure Vars is far more knowledgeable when it comes to this stuff meta-wise than myself, because he seems to focus a lot of this on these kind of things overall, right? So I'm just giving my opinion, my take. We can, after the video, we can open up the discussion even further. Okay, I may pause here and there because it's a 17-minute video, people. I'm not going to be able to be quiet all the way till the end and then recap 17-minute worth of information and still be accurate in my, you know, I might prematurely pause the video, say something, and he explains it later on, right? It's just how it is, because sometimes an interesting point comes up, we have to talk about it. Also, this is going to be recorded for a YouTube video, because why not? Why not? So let's just start the recording, right? Let's see what he talks about. Sup everybody, welcome to another video. So we're on stream again, and as per the request of the viewers, we're going to be doing a live on-stream reaction to Vars 2's video. It's called Reviewing Every Elemental Reaction. Let me just take chat off for one brief moment here. Right here, right? So as you guys see, reviewing every elemental reaction sounds interesting. Now, am I an expert on elemental reactions? Absolutely not. I was just saying this to chat. Don't take my word as gospel. You should always cross-reference your information with at least 3 different creators or sources. Doesn't even have to be creators. It can be on Reddit for all I know. Just to see what other people are talking about, right? So I'm just going to be giving my honest opinion to this because people want to see it. I don't know why. Why specifically this video? Also don't know why, but we'll see. All right. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's bring chat back.
Reactions are a huge focal point of Genshin Impact's gameplay, so much so that oftentimes the character's value is determined solely by how well they can facilitate reactions, and is also a big contributor to why an element gets the praise or criticism that it does. I made a video about a year ago discussing if elemental reactions were overrated, and needless to say, that video didn't age all too well. If anything, it's become even more consequential now that Dendro is in play. Something I thought would make for a fun watch is to go through every elemental reaction, break down its functions, and assign them a score out of 10. I made a video on the best elements already, so I might as well break it down even further. Today, I'm going to evaluate all of Genshin's elemental reactions and give my personal thoughts on how well and effectively they were designed. Let's start by going over the ground rules first. Even though I said the viability of a character is heavily based on how well they make use of their respective elements' reactions, in all honesty, it's more of a symbiotic relationship between the two. In layman's terms, elemental reactions are just as dependent on the characters as the characters are to reactions, which means there might be possible indirect improvements made to existing reactions based on how future units come out. For example, we might have a physical damage dealer with a passive talent that causes the superconduct reaction to break physical res by 70% instead of 40. While that's exclusively tied to that specific character, it's still considered as part of the reaction's potential. After all, Dendro was decent or serviceable until Nahida came out, making its reactions disgustingly overpowered. Whether that's an indication of the true power of Dendro reactions or just Nahida is for you to decide. But
Quick pause. I think something he mentioned, and I likely will mention down the video, and I'm going to do this more because I can't remember 17 minutes of content, right? And then talk about it at the very end. So I have to pause in there, but I'll make this quick. Different characters in different elements will just have different effects on their elemental reactions. Nahida is like a god when it comes to Dendro elemental reactions, but when you evaluate Nahida versus evaluating someone like Kale, they're going to have very different grades, in my opinion, right? So I think when he evaluates the reaction, he has to take the best character available from that reaction to evaluate that. For example, if you're going to do Melt right now, likely you have to use Ganyu and Xiangling Bennett, maybe Nahida, right? That's the best Melt teams that we have. If you're going to do Vaporize, you can do Hu Tao Vaporize, you can do Yoimiya Vaporize, you can do Tartaglia International with Xiangling, right? There's all these options. So when you evaluate reactions, you have to be very, very careful what their best available options are and evaluate based off of that. And when it comes to reactions, like I'm sure he's going to talk about it, superconduct. Yeah, we'll see about that. Okay, continue.
For the sake of clarity, I'll be looking at how the elemental reactions currently stand based on the existing roster. For those of you watching months after this video came out, please keep that in mind. We'll go through the reaction order of Pyro, then Hydro, then Electro, then Cryo, then Dendro, then Animo, then Geo, ignoring any overlaps in between. Vaporize, the OG burst reaction. It doesn't command the same reputation as it used to, seeing as we have more options nowadays, but it's still a very reliable one. By combining Pyro and Hydro together, it will multiply the damage of the triggering attack by either 1.5 times if it's Pyro on Hydro, also known as Reverse Vaporize, or double if it's Hydro on Pyro, known as Forward Vaporize. As one of the game's two amplifying reactions, to maximize the effectiveness of Vaporize, it's more practical for you to achieve the reaction with a single heavy blow rather than multiple hits. Hu Tao is the game's premier vape user thanks to her burst concentrating all of its damage into one giant explosion, allowing Spirit Soother to deal damage well in the hundreds of thousands. That being said, so long as you can get through the internal cooldown, or if the ability in question doesn't have one, if you can apply a steady stream of Hydro, then you can still make use of Vaporize, just not on every single hit. Interestingly, despite Hydro on Pyro being stronger, Vaporize is more known for its reverse variant, since Hydro is more known for setting up reactions, not really activating them, Childe and Mona being the exceptions. The current best team composition to make use of Vaporize is the double Hydro lineup comprising Xingqiu and Yelan in tandem with a Pyro on-fielder like Yoimiya, Hu Tao, or even Yanfei. Off-fielders like Xiangling can work too. You can also easily pull off a Vaporize team using only Xingqiu if you don't have Yelan. I never really found a use case for Kokomi for Vaporize though. All in all, it's a very user-friendly and effective reaction, and while it's no longer as dominant in the metagame as it used to be in version 1, you can still find great success with it thanks to Pyro and Hydro's extensive rosters. I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10 for its healthy balance of accessibility and power. Can't go wrong. Up next is Overload, a strange reaction that finds itself being a side dish more than the main course. Mostly cause there's no reason to go for solely Overload, as you can easily pull off what is called Overvape, which I'll get into later. Being a transformative reaction, the order of application doesn't matter. You just need to apply Pyro and Electro onto a single target and the same outcome will happen, creating an explosion that deals heavy Pyro damage in a decent area, emphasis on heavy. Overload causes significant knockback and is factored in as a heavy attack. Therefore, it can shatter, deal greater damage to enemy shields, and stagger large enemies. But the ensuing Pyro damage does not apply Pyro to targets hit, meaning you have to find a way to consistently reapply both elements. As stated earlier, Overload is less of a win condition and more of a side quest. Most Pyro units aren't all that big on Elemental Mastery unless you specifically itemize their equipment as such, despite the base damage being noticeably higher than more popular reactions. What makes it counterproductive is that the explosion damage knocks away enemies, which is a bad thing as you want to keep your targets close together so you can keep attacking them. That's not to say Overload is a bad reaction. There are quite a few comps that make use of it like Raiden National and Overvape. Well, I guess in a way Raiden National is an Overvape team. There are niche use cases for just Overload, but seeing as you can achieve both Vaporize and Overload, you really don't have a reason to go for just the latter outside of making a political statement. So it's hard to give a solid rating for Overload. If I were to evaluate it by itself, it would be like a 5 out of 10, lacking any pragmatic incentive, but when paired with Vaporize, I'd give it maybe a 7. It tends to get overshadowed by other reactions through no fault of its own. Despite functioning exactly the same as Vaporize, Melt doesn't get anywhere near as much attention or use for that matter. It has the same multipliers based on the triggering element, 1.5x if it's Cryo on Pyro and double for vice versa. Makes sense, fire melts ice and all that. The cause of Melt teams not getting as much use compared to Vaporize is that the pool of available Cryo units isn't really geared towards achieving Melt. Remember, to maximize efficiency, it helps to have one really big screen nuke to blow everything up. The only hard hitter is Eula, and hers is physical damage. Chongyun does have.
You see, the interesting thing that he's talking about Melt, but the interesting thing is he's talking about it saying, oh, one giant big hit to proc Melt, but when we look at Vaporize, there are consistently units that are dishing out damage that are doing damage over time. They're not doing one instance of big Vaporize damage and then getting off the field. So I do think eventually there could be a character like that for Melt. However, I don't think Hoyoverse can balance it properly because they both shared a Pyro support or on-field character. And what is, like I keep saying this, what is to stop players from playing that character in Vaporize and finding more success in Vaporize, right? We got to answer this question, and I hope Vars does answer this question in this video, is that how are you going to create Pyro characters that are Melt exclusive and not Vaporize? Because if you compare Melt and Vaporize, let's say, oh, this character can play in Melt or Vaporize, there is going to be a better version, right? There is going to end up being, okay, this character is 5% better if you play them in a Vaporize team. Then most people would just play them in a Vaporize team. And you don't want that situation to happen. So how are you going to make a character that's more Melt incentivized without it being so on your nose, being like, this character cannot Vaporize, like this Pyro character cannot, kind of feels kind of bad, right? So let's see how Vars explains this.
Have a really strong single attack burst, but it's hampered by his weaker stat line. Some players have tried out reverse melt on Ganyu, but she tends to be used on freeze teams more often than not. And of course, Ayaka is the queen of freeze. She doesn't do enough damage from melt to justify using them. At the moment, melt is a reaction that has yet to show its full potential. I think when we get a cryo unit that has a really strong one-punch elemental burst, that would call melt back into discussion. But for now, there aren't that many incentives to use it. If you're going for melt, you might as well go for either freeze or vaporize unless a dungeon or boss explicitly prevents you from doing so. That's another thing. Yes, you can theoretically invest resources into forming a workable melt comp, but is it as easy and worthwhile compared to going a standard vaporize? Type advantages in Genshin aren't as prevalent as in a game like Pokemon. You can still use fire attacks against the Hydro Abyss Lector even though he's weak to ice, but then in that case you might as well just go freeze. Case in point, no real use case for melt yet. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Up next is Burning. Gonna be honest, it's trash. 2 out of 10. Not completely unusable, but if you're adamant about running a Dendro Pyro team, just throw in a Hydro and do Burgeon. Burning sucks. Moving on. Electrocharge has to be the most difficult reaction for me to rate because it's known for having one of the best teams in the game, and the reaction has become even better after version 3, but at the same time I don't know if I would consider it best reaction material. I'm gonna call it EC for the rest of the video, by the way. Combining Electro with Hydro will deal Electro damage over time to the primary target as well as any other nearby targets affected by Hydro. Interestingly, targets affected by EC will be affected by both Hydro and Electro at the same time, allowing for multiple reactions to be triggered if a third element is applied, which is how you can pull off Vaporize and Overload or Superconduct and Frozen or Electro and Hydro Swirl at the same time. Being able to layer an additional reaction is why EC has to be the most widely used reaction in the game. Not only having its own premier team in the form of Taser, but occurring in teams like Overvape and Hyperbloom to further amplify their already incredible effectiveness, and the ease of access offsets the somewhat lower base damage. EC is so prevalent that it's actually viable to run Thunder Fury on Sucrose and or Kazuha if you want to maximize electro damage, which I never thought I would hear in a million years. See, my thought process behind its rating being ambiguous is that EC teams, namely Taser, are really strong due to Electro sub-DPSs like Yaimiko, Official, and Beidou being strong, not really the reaction itself. Then there's the added measure of EC allowing you to pull off double reactions, and it's more of a utility reaction than one that specializes in carry DPS in the same fashion as Vaporize. The damage over time also means it's at its best in long drawn out fights against clusters of enemies rather than insta-kills. Either way, a fantastic reaction and will likely continue to be so, 9 out of 10 for me. The next reaction faces the same situation as EC, where it's a spectacular reaction that quite literally hard carries an entire element, but there are 1 or 2 factors that prevent it from being infallible. Unlike other reactions that either dish out damage or increase your damage, combining Hydro and Cryo unsurprisingly leads to freeze, paralyzing all enemies affected by Hydro for a short time, during which they can't move or attack until the effect wears off. Without going too far into mathematics, if you can apply Cryo on Hydro before the existing freeze wears off and you can exceed the element's diminishing return timer, it's feasible to pull off a chain freeze, permanently stunning all enemies. Conveniently, cryo units have a penchant for long-lasting persistent application. Many of its supporting casts have elemental bursts that spawn in cryo field, and its 2 main damage dealers have bursts that facilitate rapid cryo application too. So the roster is more than equipped for its trademark reaction. The only major downside is that with no bonus damage, freeze is entirely dependent on the crowd control effect. Against enemies who can't be frozen like bosses, this reaction is non-existent. Personally, I don't see that as much of a con, especially when you can cheese so many floors in Spiral Abyss with this. There's also Shatter, but how should I say this? No one cares about Shatter. I think Frozen is a very good example of an elemental reaction that's really broken but kept in check by circumstance so that it doesn't overinflate the strength of Cryo. If bosses could be chain frozen, you're basically playing Solitaire at that point, but that might ruin the experience. Solid 8 out of 10. A big contributor to that rating is how absurdly easy it is to achieve freeze. Cryo and Hydro are 2 of the most accessible elements in the game, and the freeze duration isn't based on how much damage the attack does whatsoever. One of the newest elemental reactions in the game is Bloom, the only reaction that interfaces with 3 elements instead of 2, at least if you don't count Overvape as one reaction. Technically it's 2 steps. First, you start off with Dendro and Hydro, upon which a Bloom core spawns on the ground. After a few seconds, it explodes, damaging all nearby targets, including friendlies. However, if you apply either Pyro or Electro to said Dendro core, different effects will happen. If it's Pyro, then Burgeon is activated, blowing up the Dendro core immediately and dealing increased Dendro damage in a wide area to both friendlies and bad guys. If it's Electro, the Bloom core explodes immediately as well, but instead of attacking indiscriminately, it locks onto the nearest enemy and deals concentrated damage, although if you're standing right next to them, you'll still get hurt as well. Both variants are equally as effective, sporting the highest base multiplier of 3, and since multiple Dendro cores can spawn if you have multiple enemies, there is a crap ton of burst potential behind this reaction. The sheer power of Hyper Bloom and Burgeon has made Dendro one of the most powerful DPS elements in the game, and if you have Nilou at your disposal, she can elevate that power even further. I believe Nilou Bloom is a tier 0 party right now. Bloom does have a downside, although it's debatable as to whether or not it really is. Because you have to carefully sequence elements together, you run the risk of accidentally layering Dendro and Pyro or Dendro and Electro together, resulting in burning, which we've established is garbage, or Quicken, a different reaction altogether. The stupid thing about Quicken though is that if you apply Hydro on a target with Quicken, it turns into Bloom anyway, so the order doesn't matter for Electro. The real weakness is that since Bloom has a tendency to damage your party as well, a source of healing or shielding is obligatory. You can unintentionally kill yourself if you're not careful. The good news is Hydro—
Well, see, that's why there are so... Okay, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it because I need to make this point. Kokomi is just such a good unit all around. She's gotten better and better and better. At this point, I think this is her third essentially kind of buff to the character, being that she kind of makes a lot of the issues, like the little annoyances. She doesn't solve big problems for you guys, okay? Kokomi's not that kind of character. That's why I think if I want to categorize her, I would still say she is a luxury unit, but there's so many of these tiny just annoyances. Let's be honest here. Why did HoYoverse make that thing hurt you? Answer me this question. Why did they make Hyper Bloom hurt the user? Right? Like this very simple thing that, okay, let's just make these little flower buds and, like hurt you. Come again? What? Right? Of course, it's to incentivize healers, shielders to make sure they don't go out of fashion, right? With the amount of damage, like, no, be honest. With the amount of damage Nilou Super Bloom and just general Hyper Bloom does, comps in general, even free-to-play ones, with the amount of damage they are outputting, healers and shooters are about to get ran out of business if this thing did not somehow end up as a double-edged sword. Okay? So, this is why, like, characters such as Kokomi, HoYoverse is keeping a very close eye on these, like, characters that are not crazy popular. They're not like Archon level, but at the same time, they have proven to be great rerun banners. They're keeping a close eye on them and making sure they stay relevant throughout the different metas that Genshin has yet to develop. So I wouldn't be surprised in the future, certain characters that may seem average or below average now receive some love and attention from HoYoverse, where they start rising up. All right, keep the hopium, like keep sucking on that hopium juice. Sorry about the sound. People seem to be drag racing outside my apartment here, but let's continue.
Hydro is the element of healing, so if you have a Barbara or Kokomi, then this is a non-issue. There's also Yao Yao and Shinobu if you want to mix things up. In general, I would argue Bloom is one of the best defensive reactions in the game, having no shortage of options and being reasonably effective whether you're fighting one enemy or several. But if you're specifically aiming for one person like a boss, I would advise Quicken instead. Either way, 9 out of 10. Excellent damage output with circumventable drawbacks. Depending on who you ask, Superconduct is either a completely irrelevant reaction or the single best reaction in the game. If they say the latter, they're most definitely a Eula main. No, but seriously, Superconduct is a case-by-case thing since it's designed for a particular category of units. By combining Electro and Cryo together, a blast of cryo damage is emitted in a wide area that breaks the physical resistance of all enemies hit by 40% for 12 seconds. The cryo damage is measurably worse than other reactions, having only a 0.5 times base multiplier, so it's almost non-existent, leaving just the physical rest debuff for you to derive value from. A 40% phys rest break is equivalent to increasing physical damage by 1.67 times, no laughing matter. It's essentially the same as pulling off an inverse vaporize with every single attack on a fairly accessible reaction, plenty of sources of Electro and Cryo to go around. Only problem is, physical damage has been in the midst of a dark age for quite some time, and while version 3.5 will be out by the time you see this video, I seriously doubt any significant improvements will be made through just Mika, and even if there is, the only ones who stand to benefit from that kind of support are Eula and Razor, who are fighting an increasingly uphill battle against the other elements. Conceptually, Superconduct is an excellent reaction. Were it to shred any other resistance besides physical, it could easily be the strongest in the game. Because it's physical though, that greatly hamstrings a number of use cases for it. So I'll level it at 5 out of 10. Essential where it's needed, irrelevant where it isn't. Right now, I think it's used more as a crutch than a bonus. Without Superconduct, there would be no hope for survival for physical characters. The other new reaction...
He gave Burning 2. I think Superconduct is like 3 at best. Maybe 4 if you stretch it a little bit. Anyways.
Action that came in version 3 is Quicken, or the umbrella term Catalyze, having 2 sub-reactions, but unlike Bloom, they behave identically. By pairing up Electro and Dendro, you apply the Quicken debuff to a target, upon which further instances of either Dendro or Electro will trigger either Aggravate or Spread, dealing flat bonus damage corresponding to the attacking element. The key thing to make note of is that it doesn't consume the Quicken aura, meaning you can trigger Spread and or Aggravate over and over and over again during that window. Yes, you heard me right, you can trigger both at the same time. The name of the game is to achieve Quicken, then spam as much Electro and Dendro as humanly possible, and since it's a flat damage bonus, the number of attacks matters more than the damage of each one. And fortunately, both Dendro and Electro have rapid applicators. The only difference between Aggravate and Spread is the base multiplier, 1.15 for the former and 1.25 for the latter. Quicken has a special place in my heart, primarily because it allowed for the one true waifu Kutsing a chance to become good again, but casting aside personal bias, it's an objectively powerful reaction with no real weaknesses to speak of. I wouldn't give a 10 out of 10 per se, but unlike the other reactions which are only good for either mobs or bosses or don't work against a certain type, Quicken is accessible, works in both single target and AoE, and deals a lot of freaking damage, and if you decide to field a Hydro unit, inflicting Hydro on a target affected by Quicken automatically activates Bloom as mentioned in the Bloom segment, so you basically just mash your face on the keyboard. Love this reaction, 9 out of 10. It's fun seeing lots of numbers on the screen. Moving on, Swirl, cool. The only reaction I would go so far as to say deserves a 10 out of 10, but in fairness, it's mostly due to the characters and the artifact set. If we were to isolate the reaction in a vacuum, it would be maybe an 8 out of 10, but circumstantially, Virtus and Venerer followed by Kazuha or Sucrose make this reaction way more broken than it has to be. Mixing Animo with either Pyro, Hydro, Electro, or Cryo will emit a burst of the triggering element's damage in a small area that has the potential to trigger further elemental reactions due to applying said element to targets. This is as overpowered as it sounds. Furthermore, by equipping the user with Virtus and Venerer, they can shred the elemental resistance of targets by 40%, and if you remember what I said about Superconduct, this is insanely effective at amplifying your damage. Swirl is mostly used for mob clearing as you can't chain reaction nearly as effectively against a single target, but again, a 40% rest break works well for bosses too, making it arguably the most versatile reaction in the game. There's a reason Kazuha, Sucrose, and to some extent Venti work in virtually every team composition known to man. The Animo element as a whole is just broken to all hell. In fact, I made a video on that a couple weeks back if you're interested. 10 out of 10 reaction. Best reaction in the game if I had to choose one. Lastly, we arrive at Crystallize. Poor thing. Swirl is what Crystallize wished it could have been. It is the same reactor as Animo, although instead of dealing spread damage, it gives you a tiny shield based on that element. Not only is the shield value pretty minuscule, but so many characters in the game are able to shield you by themselves, including the very characters that trigger Crystallize in the first place. It would have been a bit more effective if you could stack shields, but how it works is if you have 2 shields, both of them will take the same damage. Then again, you can't stack multiple crystallized shields anyway, and as stated many times in past videos, defense isn't a point of concern for us yet, even Bloom teams, and Geo doesn't interface with Dendro anyway, so it's a moot point. Overall, it's just a really bad reaction, both in applications and effectiveness. There may be a chance for it to become useful, but it would take one hell of a Geo character. Hate to say it, but Crystallize is the worst reaction in the game. Even Burning is more effective in my opinion. Okay, so there you have it. Man, this was a long video. I'm gonna wrap things up here. My voice is giving out. But let me know in the comments down below what you think of each reaction, whether you think I overrated or underrated them. Aside from that, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also follow me on...
for people watching, remember this is Vars 2's video, and it's called Reviewing Every Elemental Reaction. Go over there and leave a comment, like, watch video, do a run. So just to conclude this, so we don't take any more of your time. Overall, I think the guy is pretty much spot on for most reactions. I think he's giving a little more credit to Superconduct than... because, okay, the thing is, nobody's running Superconduct for the damage. Even though he mentioned the multiplier, the 0.5, right? Nobody's using it for the damage. We're all using it for the effect, right? The utility of reducing the enemy's physical resistance, and so your physical damage can do more damage. But I'll be fully honest with you guys. With the amount of damage Eula can pump out with her burst, it really doesn't matter if you actually have the Eula's damage is so much in excess that most Eula players are finishing her burst early just to get the thing over with. There's so much just excessive damage in her kit that doesn't need to be there, and it could have went elsewhere to her kit having maybe better flow, better utility, just or better variance. That in my opinion, Eula is so there's too much focus on that damage per screenshot and not enough in just gelling her kit together a little better and making her a little more comfortable to play. Okay, Superconduct, I think, is the only one the guy kind of missed the mark a little bit. Again, that's my opinion. I think 3 out of 5 at best. I said 4 earlier, but after thinking about it, 3 out of 5 at best. Crystallize deserves 0. The man was humble, and the man was nice enough to not give it a score at all. But yeah. Great video overall. I think reactions are currently quite imbalanced in Genshin Impact. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on certain, like for example, Melt needs to be developed, Crystallite needs to like a whole ass rework, or just a character to buff the ever living daylights out of it. And then Superconduct needs to be re-examined to see what the hell is going on over there. Apart from that, I hope in the future that more characters come out that can incentivize more unique interactions between different elements. For example, imagine an Anemo character or a Geo character that comes out that can interact with Dendro and Anemo, but not with any other element, right? Or something weird, crazy like that. Hoyoverse can make that happen. It's just if they want to take it in that direction. But again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and thank you chat for sitting through it as well. We're going to be moving on to other things in the live stream now, so I'll see you guys, YouTube viewers, next time. Till then, urge y'all to stay safe. Peace, peace. Bye. And that's the video for the reaction. Thank you for sending this to me. I always do enjoy looking at other videos that people talk about Genshin. Again, I myself am not the most knowledgeable person. Although everything he said in the video I understood, it's not something that I would have been able to put together per se, right? It's just, it's weird. Is that I understand the concept, but having like, it's like knowing one thing and being able to teach that thing to someone else sometimes is just not as easy as it would seem. Be like, oh, you already know it, how come you can't teach it? It's some things, because I figured out the game more intuitively, meaning I play the game and sometimes things just work, and when things work I do it again, right? I do it again and again and again, and I know how I get that specific instance of thing to work. But if you want me to break down each different component of it and explain it to somebody who doesn't know at all, like rudimentary level stuff, I can't really explain it, because I'm just like, so this character presses Q, and then that character presses E, and then damage, and then that character presses E, stuff like that. It's just, it's weird. But Vars, to put it in a really easy to understand way for all the reactions, he kind of like dumbed it down for everybody to understand at a very basic level, and I think that deserves credit. It's not like, not everybody can do that. Even people who are very, very experienced in the game sometimes cannot really break it down as coherently for beginners to understand. Okay. Tech Devices, it helps to break things down step by step to explain things. Exactly. Like if we are trying to teach a new player about all the reactions, it's very difficult even for a veteran player to do that, because you don't really understand each reaction to that like level, right? So having somebody who can talk coherently in a well-paced video, you know, deserves credit. Very, very well said. Jakes is saying there's Petra set, but it's over clunky to use. Yeah, Petra set is not well designed at all. It's not very intuitive. There's so many issues with it, in my opinion. Right? I don't think the element is. I mean, I don't think the artifact is worth anybody's time or effort to go farm for it. Name is Nam. Is that's why I watch Zajev. He's good at explaining things. Yeah, I've heard Zajev is very, very good at breaking things down to a very to their basic components, explain them, and he can also elevate that conversation all the way to the top, being like talking about the most cutting edge Genshin theories that people are still working on and stuff, and he's very in tune with all of that, and he's like good with numbers, right? So the guy is just like, he's a book of knowledge for people who want to know more about Genshin. Huge hat off to the guy. I think when it comes to games like Genshin Impact, or just different games that has strategy or stuff like, you know, different mix and matches of things that happen, having a casual community and having a hardcore community is very important. When a game lacks a hardcore community, you kind of end up in like this limbo state where nobody really cares, because casual players don't care about it enough to really devote time and attention beyond their like 30 minutes of game time a day. But the hardcore players truly, I do think, are what carries a franchise, if that makes sense, right? Think of a franchise that is carried by like just straight up casual players. It's always the really diehard fans. They buy every game, they go like above and beyond to dedicate themselves to a certain title. The hardcore fans are truly like the unsung heroes, and a lot of, they kind of get a bad rep for how they come off as cringe sometimes. Okay, I'll say it first. Hardcore people, sometimes there's a small group of them that comes off really cringe, like sometimes annoying, and even rarer times like straight up like crazy, batshit crazy. Okay, so they get a bad rep for that, but we all have to agree that the hardcores are what keeps, you know, the servers on for the vast majority of these titles, right? So hats off to them where it's due, but you hardcore people gotta, like, you know, ease off the gas pedal once in a while, you know, like take the hint in the room sometimes that, you know, maybe you're coming on a little strong. But apart from that, you know, I love you guys. Yeah, so now we're getting into the part of the stream where I always urge you guys, if you want to join and talk with me, feel free to DM me, because today we're gonna have a special viewer guest on stream. Let me see where he is. So yes, we're gonna be talking with Techie. People in chat likely know Techie. Whether you agree or not with them, I want you guys to, you know, at least remain respectful, right? You know, sure, sometimes he and I may not agree, he and you may not agree on certain points, but that's why he's coming on and we get to talk, right? And I encourage everybody, if you disagree with something I say and you really want to argue it, and you really want to be like, hey Walrus, you're not reading my texts, you know, my messages enough, I want you to respond to my viewpoint, and you think you have a really strong point and I'm really kind of skewing it towards a certain direction, I have no issues with you reaching out, say, hey Walrus, I would love to come on stream and talk about this specific topic with you, and we will try to remain respectful, right? I always say, I don't want to build an echo chamber here, and if you disagree, voice your opinion, and if I don't read your opinion, reach out to me through DMs and we can talk about it on stream. Okay, so Techie, if you're ready, I'm going to shoot you a quick call and we can get started. Oh, the topic of discussion that Techie wants to talk about is two things: vertical vs horizontal progression and value for investment. As to the account showcase, I think we might have to hold it because we have another person afterwards for a account review, so we have to just talk about the topic at hand. Okay, and then maybe account will look at it another time. So let me start the call here. Okay, I'm hopped in. Let's see if he jumps in. Hello. Okay, I'm hopped in. Let's see if he jumps in. Hello. I can hear myself. I'm hopped in. Let's see if he jumps in. Hello. I can hear myself. Hopped in. Let's. Oh no, it's now looped.
Hey, what's up?
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
It's now looped.
Hey, what's up?
Oh no, there's echo. Are you able to mute the live stream? Oh no, there's echo. Are you able to mute the live stream? Oh no, there's echo.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So now that we have no echo, perfect. So for chat, to kind of get a better sense of what's going on, can you maybe introduce yourself, let them know who you are, your experience with Genshin, right? Whether you're a free to play, pay to play, if you're comfortable enough, how much you paid on the game, and just get them to understand you a little bit before we go any further into the discussion.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually started Genshin in the first year, like the first day or two when the game came out, and I have not been a free to play player. I've always sort of spent money more so initially, the first year or two of the game. Then sort of realized that it's really not in my best interest to spend too much money, other than just BP and Welcome Moon, for just getting units that I find enjoyable, than to vertically invest, which is something I'm going to get into. But it's just, yeah, just developed my accounts, made a lot of different teams and characters that I like to be able to kind of tackle anything in the abyss. So kind of how I look at Genshin, just have fun, but also play, meta teams.
Right, and I think a lot of people really undervalue just how insane a simple Welkin plus BP player, like the amount of resources you get versus a completely free to play. It is, it's heaven and earth levels of differences here. For some reason, Hoyoverse like put this low hanging fruit of like BP and Welkin right in our faces, but a person who's bought Welkin every month since the beginning of the game would have like what? I would say like hundreds upon hundreds of extra polls. I would even go so far as like maybe what, like 300 polls more or something like that. It's crazy because I know somebody, I'm sure you've heard of him. I think it was Dante. He's gotten Welcome Moon since Hu Tao's first banner until now. So I think it's like 2 years, and he's gotten a C6 Ito just with the additional summons with that. So it's actually an insane amount of value. And I definitely would have to agree. If anything, if you don't have to spend, I'd say like hundreds a month to feel like you're getting value out of Genshin, a simple $5 a month will make you feel on top of the world. If it's compounded over like 2-3 years, you'll just have so many more like resources to work with as opposed to a pure free to play player. Okay.
Right. Absolutely, I agree with that. I think it's like, if you think about it like a subscription for WoW or, another live service game, and just spend on it as you would for something like that, or Xbox Live or something. And think of it like, if you're just a enthusiast for building teams and units, that would be your best bet.
Right. Okay, so now let's get into the topic of discussion. I think people already know exactly what my stances are when it comes to horizontal versus vertical, right? But now I want to pass over the floor to you to kind of talk about this and really hammer home your points when it comes to this topic.
Sure. So some people in chat were saying my voice was too loud. Is it okay now? Okay. Yeah. So, all right, cool. Yeah, so vertical investment, like, that just means to me investing into the signature weapon, the constellations, or the dedicated supports for hypercarry units. So there are some pros and cons I kind of jotted down here for how we think about this. So the pros would be for vertical investment, like faster clear times, right? Due to going towards the ceiling of the unit. So you kind of have to ask yourself, are faster clear times really more satisfying or even necessary for me? Is it more satisfying to you to clear everything so much faster and not need to have any dodging skills or shielding or healing, or is it necessary? Because it certainly isn't. You can clear everything at a horizontal level of investment too. And also, one of the other pros is that if you vertically invest, you don't have to invest that much resin. You can kind of clear everything at non-max level. You can have suboptimal artifacts. You can have level 70, 80 characters, like sort of like how Walrus does, on his streams. And he's able to clear everything with level 70 characters or level 70 weapons. So in vertical investment allows you to do that. But the cons of vertical investment, I would say, is you really have to ask yourself, what is the value for your gems or the money you're spending? And this is really important for people who are like, I always feel like if somebody's like a 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid and he is thinking about, spending, really can't tell him that, constellations are such a great deal for you, because they might just kind of get baited into spending and doing some unwise decisions. It's not for people like, if you earned like a six-figure salary or something, it's not so much your problem, but it's more for people like that I kind of bring this topic up. So you really like, when we were talking in the stream in the past, we were getting into this iPhone kind of discussion. Walrus was talking about, hey, so then why do people get iPhones, or why do they get like better phones every year and things like that? So I would look at it in this way. So if you get a iPhone 14 Pro Max, right? That's most that's far more money for what it is worth, because most people just choose the basic iPhone, because that has all the most important features along with some luxury, but it's not like over the top. You don't need like a super high functioning camera and take like HD videos and things like that. So it's not like you're going to need a Pro Max every single year like how you would vertically invest with every single unit. But you might do it, maybe once in a while, but even then, I mean, are you really going to use like a HD camera or something on an iPhone Pro Max to take like wildlife photography? No, most people won't. So just kind of thinking of it like that. And then the other con for vertical investment, I think, is like you kind of trivialize the content when it's already so trivial. Like imagine like Naida C2, right? So you have Naida C2 just making all your quicken reactions absolutely broken. You have hyperblooms becoming broken and critting. Then you're just going to be demolishing content in like 10 or 20 seconds when it should be taking you like a minute or a minute and 20. And you don't have to learn any dodging, no shielding, no healing. You can run a healerless team and pretty much clear all content. Is that really going to be fun for you? So you have to ask yourself that question. And the other thing is, the last con I would say for vertical investment is like it leads to you missing out on some good units. Like, for example, when Naida came out, just a patch before her, you had Nilu and Sino, right? So if you saw that Naida's coming out next patch, you might have just skipped Nilu and Sino because you wanted to go for her C2 because it's so broken. But then you would have missed out on Nilu, which, she turned out to be so great. And Sino is also a very good unit. He has a quick bloom team that not many other Electro units can do, and things like that. So what I'm just saying is that if you're a free-to-play low spender, you really have to like pick what are you going to do. And I would say that your best bet would be to build teams than to go into like one like put your eggs in one basket. And when you talk about like jumping gears to horizontal investment, like you invest into multiple units at C0. So the pro for that would be you get better value for your investment. Like all units can be obtained at a free-to-pay low spender level, right? You don't have to like, spend any money or anything. You can get all the units in their first or their rerun. And especially in early and mid account building, that's when you want to build a team. That's really what makes sense, is to build horizontally, build your Hyperbloom and Dendro teams, the first bet, then build your nationals and build your freeze team and build like a, two-part team in your account. Then after that, you can kind of start building some off-meta teams like I did. I built like a Mono Geo team in the second year, and then I built a freeze team and all that sort of stuff. But the first things I did was just build, national and, things like that, and then I built a Dendro team when it came out. So you need to have variety, because look at the Abyss. Like every single Abyss, there might be some weird enemies. Like this Abyss is just a crazy different kind of weird enemies that have different resistances. So you should have variety. You should have mono teams. You should have Hyperbloom teams and other Dendro teams, and even freeze teams to a certain extent. And it leads to like a fresh kind of gameplay and use cases. You get to learn new mechanics of different characters. Like some teams have animal units, so you get to learn how to do double swirls and things like that. And for some, you can just kind of unga bunga like Mono Geo and just not have to learn much. And different kind of attack patterns. And when you horizontally invest, the last pro is that it makes your fights a little longer, and it's a healthy challenge. It requires more skill. So, like for example, if you want to double swirl it, you gotta apply both elements and swirl them. So it kind of allows for some skill expression. And when you have to kind of layer reactions in Dendro teams, you have three different elements. You get to kind of do that over a longer period of time instead of just demolishing everything. So you can learn to dodge and sort of look at enemy attacks. But the only con, I would say, the main con, is that you might not have enough resources to build and level each unit that you like. I'm not saying you get every single unit every single time it comes out. Like, I would not even recommend people to get like Layla and all these kind of random units that if you don't like them, because they're just not that worth it. You can just kind of pick them up as you go. So you won't have enough resin or even enough resources. But try to obtain kind of one unit every couple of patches to keep your roster, healthy and kind of fresh, so you can, make different teams from different units. And then more resin investment is necessary when you horizontally invest. Like often you got to do max level, especially for Dendro units. You got to go to level 90. You got to optimize their artifacts. That's the whole point of the game, though. The whole point is you get resin, you put it into investment, you level them to 90. I have almost half my roster at level 90. I have like 40 characters, 20 of them might be level 90. And I haven't, spent on like getting resources or something, just BP, Vulcan, Moon to get, things like that. So, that's the point of the game. So don't be afraid of like putting in the investment to level 90, because you're going to get a big return for transformative reactions for that. So that's pretty much it for vertical and horizontal investment. Like one example I would say is, when we bring up like Raiden C2, right? So you talk about Raiden C2, that's like the example we bring up as vertical investment. Like when you vertically invest into Raiden, you're getting a huge amount of damage, like I did. I put in money and I got Raiden C2. I would say that's kind of the biggest regret I have from Genshin, because right now she's arguably stronger as a Hyper Bloom trigger. She is really strong at C0. She's able to facilitate her whole team at C0. Maybe not the best like hyper carry status, like how Walrus says, like she's not a great hyper carry at C0. I definitely agree. I mean, you have better hyper carries like Ayaka and even Ito, Monogeo as true hyper carries. But she does her job at C0. She can clear content. She's not supposed to be a hyper carry at C0. And she is really more like the best hyper bloom trigger we have. I'm sure we'll get more, but for now, she's amazing, And so why would you vertically invest into Raiden? I don't see much of a use case for that. Like, okay, if you vertically invest into Nahida C2, let's say, you're gonna get faster clears. You're gonna destroy the content. But is that really what you want to do? Is that really something you want to just like demolish something that's already so easy? Wouldn't it be like better for you if you can ask yourself that if I work towards like building my account, start low, and then I get to a point where I'm able to build my account, have a couple of units level 90, and use reactions and beat the game. Because sometimes the best parts of Genshin in Abyss, for me at least, are last few seconds left, you have to run towards the clock, and you just beat it right at the edge of time. That's kind of what makes it fun for me. It's not fun for me, at least, to just beat everything in 10 seconds with Raiden Hyper Carry. I don't know about you guys, but I lose interest in that a lot. That's why I stopped playing Raiden National. I stopped playing Raiden Hyper Carry. I started playing off-meta teams. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Thank you for kind of listening, and feel free to add anything if you guys want to.
Okay. I think it's great that we were able to kind of get the full picture here. It's very difficult. Like imagine if you were in chat techie and trying to explain yourself through text of all this, right? It's so damn difficult. It's not that I don't try to pay attention. It's just, it's hard. But now I kind of get the full picture, and I do think you're definitely right on some points, right? Let's kind of peel this back and go a layer further for some of these points here, and also you can also continue to develop your points as the conversation goes on. We kind of have like maybe 30 minutes or so to kind of flesh this out more, so everybody in chat can kind of get a clear idea. Because I think the point of what the biggest point I think I got from you is that it's really up to what you want for your game, right? It's like, for example, speedrunners. It's almost like a no point discussion here when it comes to Genshin speedrunners. They exist, and they're a very interesting breed of players here, because their whole purpose in the game is how fast can I clear Abyss, right? And for them, they optimize everything in their account. And I've known some speed runners who are not like Giga Leviathan whales who are C6R5 everything. They have like 3 different C6R5 characters, and they consistently try to use those 3 to kind of like rush through Abyss as fast as humanly possible. Now, they're not making any charts because on some Abysses, it just favors other C6R5 characters, and they only have 3. But my point here is, for people who are watching, it's not necessarily that Tiki is wrong or I'm wrong, or who's more right here. Is that, what do you want? Like, what are you looking for your account, right? What do you find joy in? And I think there's also a balance we can strike up in between our because I'm like, personally, I wouldn't say I'm like a far vertical guy. I'm not saying like vertical only, never horizontal. I'm saying like I'm definitely leaning more towards vertical, because I think when it comes to my playstyle and how I enjoy the game, clearing Abyss is definitely more enjoyable when I do it with less resistance. And I don't mean like I want to stomp on them with 0 effort. It's just I want to feel like I'm powerful. I want to feel like I have a sense of dominance over this piece of content. However, I don't want, like, there's a reason why I have 0 C6 characters. For somebody who spent this much on the game, I have no C6 characters, because I know, as Techie did mention, once you cross a certain point, and for Techie it was C2, right? Once he crossed that point, the game suddenly just turned off, right? It's like, okay, this is not fun anymore, or not as fun as I thought it would have been. Because maybe for Techie, when he first got running, he's like, okay, this is going to be cool. I'm going to have more fun. At least that's how we think when we are about to invest into something or buy something, right? But afterwards, we realize it's not what it was chalked up to be. And for me, I think that threshold may or may not be sitting at C6, right? Once I get C6, let's say I get C6 Yelan, maybe I think, oh, I would love to play the game, but maybe that kills the game for me. Right? Like, I don't know that, but I think that could be a breaking point for a lot of different players. I'm sure there are players who have pulled Constellations and regretted it. C1s, C2s, realizing, okay, it's, this isn't what I wanted. So you have to be very truthful. You don't have to be truthful to me in chat. You can be truthful to yourself and be like, what do I want for the game? Right? And the point that Techie was saying is that, even as a horizontal investor, it's not realistic to say you're going to get every single character horizontally. And there are sometimes, quite honestly, just bad characters you really shouldn't waste, especially as a low spender free-to-play, your resources on. For example, I'm going to say it because, at this point, it's free reign. Okay, Dia is such a bad character that even for those who are like thinking of investing into a new playstyle, what playstyle does she have? It's awkward, and these are the moments when it pays to have a little bit of patience, right? Be like, okay, I'm gonna skip this character. Maybe you even skip the character before Dia. Who came out last patch? Al-Haytham, right? Yeah. Maybe you skipped Al-Haytham. You're like, I already got a Tainari. I'm good. I don't want, like, right? In this case, I don't want Al-Haytham. I got Tainari. I'm good with that. And you were waiting for Dia. Now it's like, oh my god, Dia is absolute hot garbage. I'm skipping her again. So now you've skipped Al-Haytham. You skip Dia, and now you'd likely have an immense amount of resource for a free-to-play player going into the next patch. This is all beneficial to you, right? It's not like you have to either go horizontal or vertical. And in my honest opinion, I don't know if Techie would agree, but sometimes a C1 here and there, very sparingly, doesn't hurt. I think Techie
I think I'll agree with that because I do have a C1 Kazuha for that reason because it just helps me double swirl. You know, he gives me more energy and I'm able to do that. But I'm not going to go for C2 because it's just overkill. You know,
exactly. I think when it comes to Techie, your points are like when it comes to like excessively amplifying damage for no apparent reason without bringing more than just raw damage, that's kind of like a turnoff because like why would I want more damage? But in the case of Kazuha C1, that's a utility feature. Like, okay, I want to, you know, be able to enjoy my game in different ways, you know, without the limitations of some of these, like, you know, like for example, cooldowns, right? Like the CDs. Now you have a refresh CD after you use burst. That's really helpful. Generates more particle. It just overall helps you rotate better. It's a more comfortable and fluid gameplay. But when it comes to adding more damage to your kit, which you have level 90 well-farmed artifacts, it already feels excessive, and then you're adding more excessive on top of that. You just feel like, you know, my money could be, or my resources could be better spent elsewhere, right?
Yeah, so I agree with that. The only thing with vertical investment, like I totally agree with what you're saying about vertically. Like there is a few characters that I like vertical. Like I got C1 Ita because it was a utility feature. It made me I enjoy the character a lot, so I wanted to get his rotations really good. I wanted to learn his mechanics and he's just a really cool unit. But you know, there are some people who will hear all this constellation talk and start to think like, oh, maybe I should drop $100 or $200 for a constellation, which they just like that kind of newness or novelty of it, you know, and the fact that it gives them such a quick access of damage. They feel so strong, and they might just make an unwise decision. I'm not saying that people are, you know, dumb with their money or anything, but sometimes people do get baited like that, and usually it's, you know, that can be any age, but maybe it's more of the younger players. So I just think like we shouldn't hype constellations that much. I mean, they're a good feature for people who can afford them. That's the first and foremost thing, or those people who save a lot. But I would never say go for constellations if you don't want to or can't afford it. I mean, it's just not. It's like pixels on a screen, guys. It's numbers that are higher. Numbers are not going to change. Like with constellations, you're not going to get more story content or a new skin for the unit. So even if you like a unit, just think about it a lot.
Right. I think this is kind of like this whole mentality of, oh, I want this constellation. It kind of feeds back to capitalism and how Hoyoverse completely just leverages that to infinity and beyond. I know it kind of is borderline and getting a little political, but we have to talk about why it is that there are so many people. I don't know if you guys met these people. There's so many people that just get baited into like the craze in the moment, you know, like being like, it is so irresistible. And especially if you have excessive gems just chilling. I think a great example would be like Raiden C2, Nahida C2, and also like Yalan C6, you know, Ganyu C6. These are some really popular constellations, breakpoints for characters that are very, very difficult to resist. For example, a free-to-play player let's say saved, or like not a free-to-play, maybe not that, it's not too realistic, but like a Welkin only player who's been saving for like 8 months, 10 months, and then they suddenly run into Yalan. And then all these, and I think Hoyoverse leverages content creators here as well. All these content creators, theory crafters talking about Yalan C6. You open Reddit, Yalan C6. You open YouTube, Yalan C6. You go anywhere, Yalan C6, broken, completely like busted ass character. And then you're sitting there with like your 80,000 primo gems that you've been saving up since your grandparents' generation, and you're just like, God damn. And you're like starting to sweat. Right? Be like, oh, I can feel like a god for once. I can rival the Leviathans. I can rival the whales. Hoyoverse puts that in your face once in a while. I think this is very important. It's not every character. It is very sparingly. Once in a while, a character will come out with insane value for constellations. And I say value very loosely here because that's very objective depending on who is, you know. But those scenarios are presented to players, and at times people with a weaker like mentality can't really resist the temptations of, like, it doesn't even have to be C6 Yelan. Maybe they can go C1 R1 Yelan, even though they've never really pulled on the weapon banner, and that's already excessive for that account. They're like, oh my god, like, my Yelan is so strong, so much stronger than any of my other 5 stars. I got her weapon, I got her to Constellation 1, I spent about like a quarter of my saved gems. Like, what the hell did I just do? Like, I was saving for, I don't know, like Sino C6 or something, like they were saving for something, or Nahida C6, but now I kind of messed up here, right? I think this is the kind of strategy that HoYoverse continuously employ to kind of whittle down your patience, whittle down your resolve here when it comes to spending and also saving for certain characters. And I think it's very dangerous. At times, I don't even think it's the player's fault, right? They're directly tackling our psychology here as opposed to our physics. You can be well disciplined on the outside, but they target your flesh on the inside. You target your kokoro for your waifus, man. Like, I don't know.
Definitely. No, I totally agree. Like, I'm guilty of this too. Like, Raiden C2 came out, people put her on another stratosphere. She wasn't
Right.
like on tier list. She's a different unit. She's like SS tier, and Raiden is like was S tier at that time. And even now,
except on mine, she was A tier.
yeah. So basically, like, that's how they got me, and this is what HoYoverse wants. They want you to spend. They want to convert free-to-play low spenders into whales or high spenders. So don't fall into the trap unless you are willing to go for it, unless you are very, very committed to that unit. And even then, just think about, what do you want in the future? Do you want variety, or you want to play the same team for, 2-3 years? Because most of the people want variety. They want to have different things to try. That's why HoYoverse releases new units every patch. That's what most people want, and I'm sure that people do get bored. After playing Raiden C2 the entire year, you're gonna get tired too, just like I did. So think about your account. Think about how you're progressing in it, and you don't need much to beat this game. You really don't. You can beat it with very few units invested fully. I mean, look at Envy. He beats the game easily. There's many other free-to-play players who easily beat it, and I actually enjoy watching their content too. So yeah, I think for people who are like earning a lot of money, it doesn't matter to them, and they're just whales, and they can get C2s and signature weapons. They don't really care, but this is more for new players, free-to-plays who started in like the Dendro era, and for them just to think about it.
And just going off of that point as well, I think when we look at players who are investing into all this constellations, we also have to really be aware of their motivations. For example, let's say like the son of some billionaire with an unlimited spending limit suddenly comes into Genshin this patch 3.5, right? And they just kind of blow through the game. People or players like this tend to not last very long because they kind of bypass the whole point of Genshin. As much as Genshin, it has beautiful, scenery, lore, music, most of the gameplay is still a developmental RPG game. There's a progress through which you have to trade your time for the resin and slowly build up your account to different tiers. You can have a low tier account when you just enter Spiral Abyss, and over many months you can develop that into a team that can beat Spiral Abyss, right? Like when you have a level 60 team, you really can't beat the Spiral Abyss that easily, right? But players will pay an exorbitant amount of money to bypass the time that they have to wait, and then they'll turn around and be like, oh my god, what happened to this game? Like, it used to be so fun. It's kind of like they killed the fun for themselves. And also that's why it's very important to identify exactly what makes this game fun. In my opinion, it's a mix of feeling a sense of accomplishment through your like hard work. You develop this account, you put in the time leveling these characters, farming the artifacts, making sure that this character is at the point it is right now. And that could take, for some people, if you're lucky with artifacts, it could take a couple weeks. For unlucky ones, that could take months to get to the perfect point where you're happy to move on to another unit. And when people bypass this process with money, Like I'm talking full refreshes every day for resin, and then also like C6ing R5 characters, you bypass this very important like aspect of the game, which is progression. There is no progression. You went from like bum to riches in like a week. Like what is there? There's like you accelerated it so much to the point where yeah, you're crushing content, but the whole point people feel satisfied when crushing content is that the journey it took to get there was part of the gratification at the very end. People don't realize this. A lot of people just like, C6R5, damage per screenshot. But you don't realize that the whole point for a lot of people to play these games is the developmental phase to get to that point. So don't kid yourself, because sometimes people might think like, oh, but I want big damage numbers. I want to see the big damage numbers. But maybe you're the kind of players that feels that because you've played the game through development so much that it's very hard to get that point, and you might mistaken that feeling of gratification for that very moment you're doing damage, and you disregard the whole journey up to that point, right?
Yeah. Just wanted to add, like that's kind of where I am. Like if I get a great artifact, it has 4 rolls, it has attack, crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, or elemental mastery. Let's say all 4 stats are perfect, and I get that artifact. That's more enjoyment for me than winning my 50-50s. To be honest with you, I mean, that is what's fun. That's the progression. Like that's something you went for. You spent your resin for like a few weeks. You got that perfect roll, and now whatever it rolls in, it's going to be good, right? You're going to put it on whatever character you want to build. So that's what's fun for me, and I'm sure like people want to have that. That's why we have that RNG system. That's kind of like that dopamine rush when you get a great god roll artifact. You're not going to get that from just spending money. You're going to be like, all right, whatever artifact I got, I can slap on anything on my C6 unit. He's just going to demolish everything anyway. It doesn't really matter. So just kind of think about it like that. You're going to have more fun in the game. Don't try to shortcut the game, because it's already pretty shortcut.
Yeah, Hoyoverse did a really good job making sure that you don't get more than maybe like 30 minutes for people who want to like farm out all the enemies on the map. But yeah, I think I agreed to a certain point where I think it's not smart to maybe go fully one way or the other for like, I don't think it's smart of people to kind of dive fully in for like a C6R5, right? I don't think that's gonna really do much justice for you. Even if you're a welcome player, I think the only players who are qualified and justified to invest into C6R5's 5-star characters are like people who are maybe spending like hundreds per month. And I'm not even saying that because I think free-to-plays cannot do it or should not do it. I'm saying that because even if you do end up pulling that off, let's say if you get a C6R5 Ayaka, right? There are going to be Spiral Abysses where your C6R5 Ayaka just doesn't even get to do much. And it's going to be very awkward to play that character, even and she's so busted, so broken, so much of your resource went into it. In fact, like 90% of all your Genshin resource went into that one character, and then she's kind of like sitting on the sideline for most of it. And like, what are you gonna do? It is. Yeah. Go ahead, Techie.
No, so the same thing is like, if you get C6R5 Ayaka, you get a C6 shot, you play the C12 comp, and you have 2 or 3 hits of Ayaka Q just demolishing like 3 Ruin Guards in front of you in 10 seconds. Is that really enjoyment in the game? Because I don't think it is. I think it's just like, a card swipe that was a pay-to-win button, So I really look at it like that. And I would rather have a C0 Ayaka with Amenoma struggling, kind of jolting around, trying to escape from all these Ruin Guard attacks, making the game a bit more fun, trying to freeze them around, kind of juking and jiving and attacking them from different angles, getting my Q ready, using energy and things like that, and then getting it perfectly timed to finish the enemy. So I look at it that way. But, to each their own. It's
like, to use a different like analogy, it's kind of like we like to watch, for example, different sports, football, basketball, and you see these players, they're like doing crazy stuff. It's kind of like how you go on YouTube and watch Tony Toe, like Tenna doing C6R5. It's more for entertainment. and it's not something you should be like following suit. Let's say how LeBron James does his like treats his body and workout. Like it's not like you go away after seeing, oh my god, look at LeBron James, I'm gonna start doing that. It's not feasible. And like it's and you know, it's, you're also not in the same situation to be doing that kind of stuff, right? For people who are like low spenders, been seeing Tena, Tony 2 is like, oh my god, I'm gonna follow suit and try to like C6 R5 the next, you know, my next waifu, and I'm gonna start saving now. Like sure, like you can do it, like just like how you can follow the regime and training regime of LeBron James, Messi, you know, Ronaldo, like however you want. But at the end of the day, like it's all in excess. Like you are not going to be putting that to the same level of use that these people are putting to there. Like for Tony 2 and Tena, they're also making money out of these C6 R5 characters, right? Just showcasing them. It's just a different world.
It's like LeBron James coming to elementary school and dunking on elementary school kids on a 5-foot basketball hoop.
Right, like is he having fun?
Yeah, he's not having fun. He's probably demolishing the court. But if you're a middle school kid, like you have a C0, and you're coming to play elementary school kids, okay, that's more of a challenge. Maybe these kids are gonna kind of pose a tough challenge. That's kind of how I see Genshin Abyss right now. Your floor level is enough to clear all the content. You're like a middle schooler, and you're still beating elementary school kids. Maybe a bit more challenging, more challenging than LeBron James coming there.
Yeah. So I think once in a blue moon, it's okay to hunt for constellations. And this is what I've advocated as well. If there's a character, let's say, I think Yelan C1, a lot of people like Hu Tao C1, Yelan C1, Kazuha C1. I still think Raiden and Nahida and Zhongli even C1, like C2, not C1. C2s have value if you're that kind of player, right? If you're the kind of player who is a diehard Raiden fan, it's like, man, I wish my Raiden can be like lore accurate. Although she cannot be lore accurate even at C6, C2 is as close to lore accurate Raiden as you're gonna get in this game, at least for the long while, right? If that's what you aspire, you're like in full Raiden cosplay every day when you pick up when you open Genshin, right? Maybe like Raiden C2 is worth it for you, but for a lot of people now, especially nowadays, EM Raiden with Hyperbloom is an available team. Like Raiden C2 has actually kind of lost some value there, right? So it's like it's not what it used to be. And remember, the game is constantly changing. Even if you get like C6 R5 Ayaka, now who's to say, you know, in Fontaine, they don't release a new cryo character that is just like a step, but like a melt cryo carry that is like just takes the meta by storm and grip it by the balls and like pulls it for a whole marathon run. Like you don't know that. Nobody knows that, but it could happen. And then you're sitting there with your C6 Ayaka feeling kind of stupid now, be like, God damn. But don't forget, you also had a lot of fun with that. And it's not like C6 Ayaka is not going to be good. It's just she's not the star of the show anymore, right?
Yeah.
The game is changing.
The worst part is that like HoYoverse tries to make you go for constellations on the hyper carries, which may not be that long term of an investment, because you can get another hyper carry who might be just as strong, or if not stronger, later on. What you should be trying to think about is, should I make constellations in my supports? Because those are the long term investments you can have. Those are all the S tier units are all supports. None of them are hyper carries.
That's right.
So
that's why
if you're gonna get supports at constellations like Nahida C2, for example, or if you get Kazuha, you know, C2, although I don't think C2 is that much of a big deal, but if you get I don't know, like
Venti, Venti C4, right?
Yeah,
super good value.
Venti at any constellation is
insane.
C minus.
I said he is amazing. I suggest everybody hyper invest into Venti on his next rerun. Best support in the game. Never dying, everlasting. Truly a work of art. Anyways,
that's
Yeah, I think Venti's a great example, right? Like it's just even back in the day, nobody would have even dared to question Venti's authority when it comes to the meta space. And look what happened, right? Not to beat a dead horse, but I keep having to go back. And especially, there's a lot of people in chat right now. You wouldn't believe there's a lot of people in chat and watching my videos who don't even know Venti when he was good. Like these players, since their first impression of the game. Venti has always been playing second fiddle to Kazuha. That's all they've ever known. So they don't know how back in the day Venti was truly like what was like 80-90% usage rate every single abyss. It was insane, that character. But that could happen to other characters. Like Hoyoverse doesn't want that to happen, but it's like it could happen. So that's why it's another real. I have a C4 Venti. Like haha. Like look who. I'm not laughing. Who's laughing? I'm not laughing. But it's just like it sometimes when you go too far to invest in a character, you forget that the one who's in control here is not you, right? Not you with your freaking $50,000 limit or unlimited limit. It's Hoyoverse. Like hell, they could close down the servers tomorrow. What the hell are you gonna do? All these people with C6 R5, people are just gonna be like crying in the toilet, like, puking and everything, convulsing. But you have to understand, a lot of this stuff is not of permanence. It's just temporary. You're playing this game for now. In 2, 3, 4, 5 years, who knows where you're gonna be, right? Like spend carefully, spend responsibly, and within your means, and play the game for what it's designed to be, right? Don't try to make Genshin into freaking World of Warcraft. It's never gonna happen.
It's never gonna have a competitive scene. And to speak of Venti, like Venti is just drank too much and kind of fell into a ditch somewhere after 1.2. And Dea is basically just a day or two after a funeral. So I don't think we need to dig her up and talk about her anymore.
I think Dia is paying Hu Tao a little too many visits. I think she kind of disappeared last time she went to Liyue.
Pretty much.
But yeah, great conversation. I don't think we have time to look at the account though, but I'm gonna have to look at another person's account because they've been scheduled for an account review. So I have to look at that account. But yeah, it was nice having you on. If there's anything else you want to say, let chat hear it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Walrus. I enjoy the time we talked, and I appreciate that you listen and you give everybody a chance to respond on your chat, and you treat everybody on chat with respect, and try to understand where they come from. So that's why I enjoy hanging out in this community. I appreciate all you guys. I even though I disagree sometimes pretty vehemently, I genuinely enjoy our conversations with everybody. And I just say spend wisely on the game, but have fun.
All right, thank you, Tiki. I mean, isn't it weird to even say that? It's rare nowadays to find a community where you can say your opinion without getting completely shit on, get personally attacked by other people. It's so weird. I've actually noticed this as well when I try to like go undercover in other communities. Like, god damn, like some people just have no chill.
Oh yeah, just go into Reddit for 5 minutes and you'll see what I mean. Anything is going to be downvoted.
Yeah.
So don't go there.
Well, thank you for always hanging out and keeping conversations heated and alive. So yeah, see you around.
Yeah, man. Take care.
Yeah. Okay, cool conversation. That's why I constantly invite people to come on. You guys wouldn't believe it, but like you yourself sometimes have a lot to contribute when it comes to conversations. And at least on my channel, I don't want you guys to feel like you're going to get personally attacked just for believing in something different. Even though Teki and I mostly disagreed on like vertical versus horizontal, you see, like at the end of the day, we had a conversation like proper adults. We did not yell at each other. We did not cut each other off, half sentence. And we let each other finish our points. And then we talked about those points, right? We peeled it back. We opened it. Okay, that sounded a little wrong, but like I'm talking about our points of discussion peeled back and looked over it and talked about it. And, at the end, I think we found common ground. I think that's what's important, right? Finding certain common grounds between the discussion here, and we can maybe, bring harmony out of that. Okay. okay, all right. Anyways, now finally we're gonna end up with an account review. So we looked at we reviewed elemental. I mean, we didn't review. We reacted to Vars 2's reviewing of every elemental reaction video. Very well made video. I think Vars has really, of all the reaction videos I've done for Vars, they're all usually well spoken, well scripted, well recorded, well edited. The guy just knows what he's doing, all right? Much better than me, myself. And also we talked with Techie about our horizontal verticals. So for people who are newer in chat, hope that helped, right, to understand the perspective of people who have vertically invested into Venti. But no regrets. Of course, Venti's still triple S tier character, still the best in the game. But yeah, one moment here. I need to make a new scene for entering people's account information. But I hope they are here, because if they're not here, this is going to be incredibly awkward. Let me just go here. Are you here, friend? So I'm going to have to go into this account, but I do think I need them to verify it for me. So if they're not here, this is going to be incredibly awkward. Oh, okay. They are here. So I'm going to need you to hop into your email. You're going to get a code. I'm going to need you to send that code into Discord, not chat. Discord. DM it to me in Discord so I can hop in here and take a look. And also, if you have any specific questions you have for me for your account, you can also leave it in Discord so we can tackle those while I'm here, because oftentimes I find during account reviews there's so much to cover that I sometimes miss the mark, and they ask me questions afterwards and I was like, oh sorry, I already kind of finished most of it. So if you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the chat, in the Discord, when you provide me the code, right? The code has been sent into your email, so once I get that, I'm able to hop in and we can switch back. But yeah, if you want me to look at your accounts, usually I can do them on Saturdays. And if you have any questions, you can always leave them in chat, or you can DM me if you want a lengthier conversation. I'm always down to chat, although sometimes we might have to push back the discussion time a little more, depending on how busy I am for certain live streams. Cherry Blossom says, it's been a very interesting stream so far. You have much insight both on game and on people's mentality about the game and the community too. Yeah, I try to make this more about, I try to make it a little more personalized for the players, right? It's good for me to give out general advice, but what I found is when I've answered one question, I get another question and then another question, and they're all kind of like in the same ballpark. And that's when I realized it's better to help you guys understand things for yourself. And that's why I have to sometimes go in this roundabout way to talk about things, because the direct way oftentimes solves the problem for like the general masses. But then there's maybe 20-30% of the people who are kind of left to dry, essentially. So nowadays I try to take like a more ballpark approach, like a little floaty all over the place, but I try to help you guys discern things for yourself. And hopefully that has helped more people, because what I found is people who generally understand it, they'll also understand it if I give it the ballpark method to explain things. But the ballpark method helps kind of the last 20-30% people to kind of understand it from a personal perspective and how to progress for the game in certain ways, and also for certain characters. Let's see if we've got the code here. Okay, we got the code. We're gonna hop into this account. Currently, I have no idea what the what server is it. What server? Question mark. I think it's NA, but it could be Asia. Usually, it's just one of these two. EU, we don't get that many. Unfortunately, my EU viewers are usually sleeping when we're doing this stuff. Okay, NA, cool. Let's hop in right here. Let's go. All right, we're in. Widescreen warning in 3, 2, 1. Bam. I'm sorry for people who are watching on dark mode. But yeah, viewers account. AR60 even higher than me. Oh my goodness. I'm ashamed to say, after playing the game since day one, I am still, I think, AR58. That should just show you how much I've let my resin just sit and marinate. But always we go into character archive, because in character archive we can see, oh, let me just take off chat for a brief moment here. In character archive we can see when they started the game. They started day one. This is a day one player, as you guys can see over here. It is September 27th, 2020. So this is a day one player. They got Amber. They came in. It seems like they didn't even re-roll accounts, maybe. They just kind of came in and started the game. At this point, they're one of the lucky few to have all of the standard banner characters. Oh, wait a minute. They do not have all of the standard banner characters. Oh, you guys thought I forgot about Tainari. But yeah, they don't have the new ones. They have skipped, you see, they have skipped Al-Haytham and Dia. They skipped pretty much Dendro altogether. That's interesting. Apart from the free ones, they have skipped Dendro altogether. You see, these people exist. They definitely are more interested in the traditional stuff. They want to work on their account on the old stuff, right? They have Hu Tao, but they don't have Zhongli. Interesting. Do they have Yelan? They do have Yelan. Okay, that's interesting. I'm wondering, like, they have Eula. I wonder if they're gonna pull Mika. That might be an interesting progression. And I wonder who they built on this account. I'm sure they built Zhao, and it seems like they're a huge Anemo fan, right? Because they also pulled Scaramouche. And since they have Zhao, I'm also interested how they've built their Scaramouche. So Zhao Scaramouche is a huge Anemo fan. Eula's level 90, 90, 90, 90. Let's see who's the first character that's not level 90. So they even built Razor, and Fischl is even Ascension 6. So they put a wait. This is Ascension 6, so this is Ascension 5. Okay, so Xingqiu is the last level 90. And then starting from here, we kind of like fizzle out. Interesting. Okay. Where is Faruzan? Did I skip Faruzan? Here she is. Okay. Boom. C2 Faruzan. C2 Faruzan. I would have thought you put a little more into Faruzan, considering you have both Zhao and Zhao C1 and Scaramouche. Like, since you have both of them at level 90, I thought you would have put a lot more into Faruzan cons. Maybe they did. Maybe they pulled like 100. They got to double pity just to get Scaramouche, and they only ended up with 3 Faruzans along the way. I'm not sure, but that is certainly interesting. But this is definitely an interesting account. I think Tartaglia International is definitely something you can play. Raiden National is something you can play. Hu Tao Double Hydro could work as well, right? You don't have to have Zhongli. Apart from that, let's see, Raiden Shogun, Raiden C2. So you got Raiden Hyper Carry, Raiden, like, you don't have EM Raiden, because I mean you do, but you don't have Nahida, but you can still run EM Raiden even without Nahida with just Kole, right? Dendro MC, you have those options, but it's definitely more difficult to make work. Let's look at all your constellations here. C6, C0, okay. No C1, really? But C1 Venti so OP. Shenhe, Eula, Ganyu, Ayaka, Raiden. Oh, okay. I see. Hu Tao C1. Okay, you got some key constellations here working. Oh! Oh! Okay. Oh, you lucky person. You lucky person. Only this account has only gotten one Chi-Chi ever. We have a Chi-Chi tax evader. We have found and located our Chi-Chi tax evader. We're gonna need you to pay the rest of your Chi-Chi taxes over the next 6 months. So have fun with that. But yeah, apart from this, I think this account. Whoa. Do you have Ito? With C6, you should have Ito, no? Wait, when did you get this? Did you get it on a Goro rerun? I don't see Ito. Oh boy. Did I miss it? I certainly don't see him. That is wild. A C6 Goro account with no Ito. That's kind of like having a C6 Faruzan with no Zhao or Scaramouche. You got Heizo. There's actually a very interesting account because, and you have Cookie Shinobu, You even build her up. I think, did you build all your characters? Okay, you built all of them to minimum Ascension 5. And so like at any moment you can pull them out and then play them. But what about talents? Right, talents are a different story, of course, because talents is very expensive when it comes to. Is that 77.8 million Mora? Are you an investment banker? What's going on here? Do you own the bank? What the fuck? 77 million Mora. Okay, friend. Is this your teapot? No, right? This can't be your teapot. There's no way. I refuse to believe this could be someone's teapot. Ah, this is a J chamber, of course. J chamber. I was like, if this is someone's teapot, I'm just gonna go into mine after this and delete it because obviously I don't deserve it. Yeah, okay. I want to go back to here. I want to explain certain things, right? Like when it comes to this account, what I see is that it's no matter which team, except for the national variation teams, except for that one variation team, it's very difficult to pinpoint another like really actively okay, maybe Ayaka Freeze, right? You also got Ayaka Freeze. I think Ayaka Freeze is like the most fleshed out in terms of investment. Hu Tao Double Hydro could also work, but like you're missing Zhongli, which again, you don't need Zhongli, but I'm just highlighting the fact that it's not like a fully complete best in slot team. Whereas Ayaka Freeze is Raiden National, Tartaglia International, they all are well fleshed out teams, which is enough for most cases. You really kind of drop the ball here for Dendro. When it comes to Dendro, I don't think you need Alhaitham, I don't think you need Tainari, but I do urge you to pick up like just one Nahida. Picking up one Nahida will open up EM Raiden, will open up Kaching, it'll open up like certain Hyper Bloom. You already have Kokomi, right? Picking up Anna, you can like throw in Electro as you see fit. It's gonna be great, and it opens like, to borrow Techie argument, is that you open up a whole new play style for your account, right? And I think there's a lot of value in that. Unless you're waiting for Baiju, which is also fine. I currently I still don't know what the guy does, but I would imagine that he is like either a healer or support character that can open up the more possibilities for Dendro playstyles. I think it's going to be really smart. Princess Peach is 77 million is bro. Pantalone, yeah, bro. Chill, leave some more for the rest of us. You've been going a little too hard on those ley lines, my brother. chill with the ley lines. Actually, maybe they're also a BP player. No, they're not. They're not a BP player. Interesting. What about the shop? So they are a welcome player. Oh, they haven't even bought, so it's like maybe just a welcome player then. Okay, cool. When it comes to this account, I definitely think that picking up a Nahida is going to benefit you greatly. And I think that's a first review thing I will say. Constellation wise, I don't think you really need any more constellations. You had some pretty key constellations for a lot of these characters. We can look at the weapons, right? You look at that. Goddamn, I'm jealous. I still don't have the spear. Staff of Hope. 2. Okay. Okay. Cool. Kazuha is using the Iron Sting, very smart. Bennett using Aquila Favonia for that base damage. Skyward Atlas, that's cool. The Stringless, nice. Calamity Queller? Man, this guy is just surprising me out of nowhere. Like, out of all the characters with a specialized weapon, you know, Shinhe has her Calamity Queller. Cool. Yet Eula uses Serpent Spine. Amma's Bow. Amenoma Kageuchi. Like, like Shinhe has her Calamity Queller, yet Ayaka is using an Amenoma Kageuchi. And Raiden's using Engulfing Lightning. Yolanda has Aqua Simulacra. This account looks like they put more resources into the weapon banner last patch than for characters. Swelling Tails, Rust. Of course, we saw the Staff of Homa, Solar Pearl. Oh, so they were at one point a Battle Pass player. Cool, good to know. Come on, you don't gotta do D-Luke dirty like this. You don't gotta do him dirty like this. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad weapon. I'm just saying it just looks hella goofy. It looks hella goofy, man. The man, arguably with the most drip in the game, is forced to wield luxurious Sea Lord. Cool. An elegy for the I'm just elegy for the end for Kujosara. Damn. The Black Sword. Huh. Interesting. I mean, you do have 2 sack swords. My goodness. Okay, Skyward Blade. The Wit Sith. Interesting. I guess as we continue to go forward, Favonias, these are all fine. Huh. Just full of surprises, this account. This is full of surprises. Like, I was fully prepared to go into Razor and he's using a Wolf's Gravestone. Prototype Amber. Viridescent Hunt for Amber. Cool. Okay, yeah. Overall, I think it's an account that's working on a lot of different things at once. You develop, it seems like, many different play styles. Although whether or not you want to focus on Dendro, that's definitely up to you. I'm not gonna really say you have to. I'm just saying it would likely be in your best interest to kind of develop Dendro for a time where you might end up needing it, right? But I think it's a well-developed account. I'm sure artifacts are also well farmed, considering you are a day 1 player. Okay. Actually, I think a better way to look at it is just like this. Cool. Maybe a little heavy on the crit damage, but it's fine. It's fine. Let's see. Kazuha. 999 elemental mastery. So let's see these artifacts. Ooh. Okay. I'm actually really interested in your carries here. 7149. That's all right, but of course you have Skyward Atlas, so you have a higher attack stat over here. Venti's also built for elemental mastery. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Is the elegy for the end not better than the stringless? I don't know. Maybe Maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume Elegy for the End on Venti would be pretty damn good if he's used optimally. Yeah. Let's see your Ganyu. 39, yeah, 230. Attack is 2.2. 64, 181. I think that's way too much crit rate though. Oh, because you're running. Okay. I see. Burst Ayaka, huh? I guess it makes sense if you want to leverage just more damage into her burst. If you have better artifacts, like if you have better crit damage artifacts, you definitely want to run Blizzard Strayer. I guess this is one of those situations where you're just making up for damage through other avenues, right? An extra 20% damage for her burst is very good because it's such a high scaling burst. But okay. Check Discord, Walrus. It says, I confirm anything anytime. Check my Russo's inventory. You can look at my combat list in team. I wanted Jade Sword for Xingqiu, but fate hasn't blessed me yet. He said it doesn't need much DR, so I didn't give him Sack Sword. I see. Check the resin. Oh. This? Or do you mean the resin in your bag that you've saved up? Fragile resin. What are you saving it for though? Like, what is there a specific? Are you saving it for the next artifact domain, or you're saving it for Fontaine? This should be enough to get you, like, this is like what? How much resin is this? There's 60 per, right? Is that like 1200 resin? That's like 1,200 resin, is it? A little more probably. I think it would be like you pretty much can farm out a. Nah, since there's not much to use resin on. I see. Yeah, you can definitely probably farm out an entire artifact set with this. Resin Archon. Yeah, this guy has 77. This person has 77 million Mora, along with 219 condensed resin. Not condensed. The resin, fragile resin. You have this is the thing when people just first start the game, you don't realize how much excess of resources you have towards the ladder of the game until you get to that point. So you might feel like, oh, I wish I had more resin, I wish I had more, I wish I had more this, that, blah blah blah, when you're like in the first couple of months. I would say first 3 to 6 months you might constantly feel like you want more. But then once you pass like the year and a half mark, you'll start to realize that you have so much excess in resource that there's really nothing to use them on. Whereas they also saved all of the artifact boss you get from Abyss. I remember I saved a lot of these as well, and I used them in one go. Yeah, like I feel like there's just a ton of resources here, but like you can always get this, right? I believe, and then you can feed them all into the strong box or whatnot. Yeah, I think overall it's a great account. However, it's lacking a bit of diversity when it comes to Dendro, right? And also fleshing out some other compositions. So I'll give you 3 characters that I think you should be looking towards if you are wanting to continue to develop this account. In my opinion, Nahida is probably number 1. Apart from Nahida, I would say Zhongli is another one. You like, the Archons are usually very high in value in terms of like this general uses. I think they're very, of course you may say like, oh, but I've never found I needed Zhongli, right? I don't think I need him. It's fine. I don't think there's going to be characters in the future, or many characters in the future, that are designed around Zhongli's shield, right? And currently the missing characters, Nahida, Zhongli. And with Nahida, you can make the choice of either getting Nilou or Yamiko. So it's up to you. Nilou, if you just want to gain access to Super Bloom and just play a whole different game from the rest of the community, or Yamiko to have one of the best off-field electro applicators currently available, is really valuable as well. Right? Apart from that, I think all the characters are just give or take. But yeah, and also like you have a C6 Goro, but you don't have Ito, which is interesting. But yeah, as we move into Fontaine, I think Nilou might see more, like, believe it or not, Nilou might see more like quality of life buffs for this character as well. Goddamn. Yeah. So yeah, but that's all I gotta say. It's a overall pretty good account, and I think that's gonna lead us to the end of the stream. Thank you guys so much for watching, and always love the support. Remember, join my Discord. We got a ton of great people in there. Actually, I haven't really advertised our Discord in a really long time, but yeah, we do have a Discord. So if you guys are feeling it, drop in, say hi. But yeah, that's gonna be it from me. I'll see you guys Wednesday. I'm gonna be editing the video, maybe releasing it tomorrow or the day after that. We'll see. All right. Tushi Honga says TY for the stream warriors. No problem. No problem. I remember when you first joined stream, like you haven't been here for a while because Techie was talking, so I didn't want to interrupt him. But yeah, welcome back. Always great to have you here. And yeah, until the next time, urge you to stay safe. Peace. Bye bye. I think Marcus Bullock rejoined as a member, right? I'm not sure, but I think it was Marcus. Also didn't get to give a shout out, but that's it for today. See you guys next time.